you recognize your value? Do you recognize your self-worth? These are things that we're going to talk about here in the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast tonight, and we'll do that as soon as we come right back after this.
Let's talk to Cutler. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk to Cutler. Woo!
All right. Well, I'm back. Here we are. Here it's February the 16th, and we're going to talk on the Let's Talk to Cutler platform. I'm so thankful that you all decided to share this space with me. I'm thankful for whatever the space may be, whether it's your living room, your dining room, your bedroom, whatever the space may be. And I want to get right into our conversation this evening because we're reading our quotes from this book right here. Billboards to Better, 366 Daily Sources of Motivation and Inspiration Along the Highway of Life. You don't need it to join the conversation, but it would be helpful. Again, that's my 7th book, Billboards to Better. And you can get that by going to Amazon.com, or you can go over to my website, www.gbcutler.com, and pick it up. All right. You can go to www.gbcutler.com and pick it up. But I'm thankful that you all are here. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do in just a few moments. I'm going to shout out the LTTC VIPs for the evening. You all come on in the chat room. Let's talk about things and let's just chat it up. And do me a favor. If this is your first time on this channel, why don't you make sure that you subscribe? After you subscribe, go one step further, click on the bell, because the bell will give you notifications to let you know whenever I'm live or whenever I've uploaded new content. So make sure you do that. And if you haven't done it, you all share this information. Let people know what we're talking about and what's going on our channel and the things that we're talking about on this program. Do me a favor, if you haven't done so already, do a thumbs up on the conversation. Again, as I always say, it's not just cliche, you all, but really it says to you too that you enjoy the content that we share, the content that I upload and that we discuss. But beyond that, it says to me that you are encouraged by our conversation. So if you haven't done so already, please take a moment and just click on that button that looks like this. It is the thumbs up button. And of course, now I want to go ahead and just mention our VIPs, our LTTC VIPs for the evening. And let me take a look and see. They are Jackie Cares RN, Yvonne Jones, and Raydella Lewis. They are our LTTC VIPs for the evening. Now, if you want to become one of the LTTC VIPs, a lot of people say, what is that? Who are these LTTC VIPs? It stands for the Let's Talk to Cutler VIPs. All right. It just means that they were the first ones to just join in the chat and see what's going on. So if you want to become one of the LTTC VIPs one evening and get your name shouted out, just join early. Just come on early and stay there like some people do for church. Some people do for school. They get to church early. They get to the classroom early. Well, not in the midst of COVID. They're not really doing that stuff early, I hope and pray. But listen, it's so good to see you all. I'm thankful that you all have decided to share this space, and I'm not going to take it for granted. And again, I don't want to waste your time, but you know my goal always is to make sure that we are inspired, that we are motivated, and we feel just a little bit better about life and about ourselves than we did when we first showed up. All right, because my goal is to make sure all 1,800 seconds have to make sure that they all are significant. Every minute matters, and every moment is meaningful. You know how we do it. Every Tuesday, we will read our quotes from Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then our Thursday quotes are Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The Saturday quotes, do your own thing with it. Use it to start a conversation. Use it for meditation, but just make sure that you use it, all right? I hope you all have the book, but let's go ahead and get started with our quote for the evening. A lot of quotes, a lot of stuff to say about these quotes, rather. We're going to start with our quote for February 14th, which was Valentine's Day. Happy belated Valentine's Day to all of you, by the way. The quote says this: good works don't always lead. Quite often they follow. Good works don't always lead. Quite often, you all, they follow. And I will tell you, this quote reminds me of something that we hear from time to time when we meet people for the first time. We might have heard it, or we may have even said it ourselves, but the quote is, your reputation precedes you. And depending on the person and the reputation, this could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. So when you hear, oh, your reputation precedes you, you have to sort of process it and see what's going on. Because if the person's reputation is attached to something positive or an honorable characteristic, then the individual really has the responsibility of living up to or validating the reputation. However, if the person's reputation is attached to something that's a little shady or nefarious or something that's not so honorable, then the individual has a chore. And he has the chore or the task of rehabilitating his reputation, building it back up. So whether it's good or whether it's a bad reputation, the truth of the matter is you never get a second chance to make a first impression. That's why it's always important to make sure that you try to show up with your best self. Show up with your best self, because how you show up today could very well present one or two things. It could either present an opportunity for tomorrow, or by the same token, it could present an obstacle for tomorrow. Remember that, you all. How you show up today. You all chat with me in the chat room this evening, and just make sure that we share and we inspire and encourage each other, and remind us how you show up today could present opportunities tomorrow or obstacles tomorrow. And I know there's some people who would argue, well, why do you care what people think about you? Or they might say you shouldn't be so concerned about what people think about you, and this whole notion of your reputation precedes you. But while I don't deny the validity of that argument and of that position, you all, I also believe that God sometimes uses people to send his blessings to us. I also believe that he sometimes uses people to extend favor upon us. So to me, it does matter how people perceive you. Because of course, I don't believe in giving power to people so that they can lord over you. I don't believe in that. No, you don't get to control or manipulate me. You don't get to control or manipulate any of my friends or family members or followers here on the Let's Talk Color broadcast. No, that's not what I'm talking about. This is really not about manipulation. You don't get to do that. But I recognize sometimes, you all, that a person's willingness to be a vessel that God uses to bless me really might be influenced based on their perception of me. How willing they are to be a vessel by which God uses to bless me or to bestow favor upon me. Their willingness might be a function of their perception of me, their experience of me rather, when they first meet me. And this is why I remind young people all the time that to some degree, whether you like it or not, conformity can still play a small part in your life. I'm not saying that you have to totally conform to what anybody wants, but to some degree, you never escape conformity, wanting to conform somehow so that you will create a good impression on people's lives, so that if God does by chance speak to them to do something for you, some people say, well, you're not going to do it one way or another. People still have free will. And you want to make sure that they have the willingness to be a blessing in your life. But I'll share this with you all. In addition to that whole notion of first impression or a reputation that precedes, the other important part about this quote deals with a lasting impact. How we influence people, how we affect them, what kind of impact we have on them. That's important, you all. And we are admonished. You all know this scriptural reference. We are admonished to let our light so shine that men may see our good works. So we show up as a shining light. And then what follows the shining light? Our good works. So good works don't always lead. Quite often they will follow. So we show up as the shining light, and then our good works will follow us. So that reminds me not to approach people in arrogance and assume that they know anything about me or know who I am. But it's my responsibility to show up and do the work, to carry out my responsibility, to operate in my purpose, to strive toward my destiny in such a way that I might cause others to follow. That is what my responsibility is. You see, what you know or what you think about me before you meet me, that's not as important to me as what you think about me after you meet me. Because you can have an impression, and no, I don't get a second chance to make a first impression, but I do get another chance to make a lasting impact on your life. Why is that? Why is that? Because what you do really doesn't matter so much until you show up as who you are. And that's what I want to get to us to this evening. What you do does not matter so much until you show up as the organic, authentic person who you are. We're told that works, there's another quote, that works will follow them that believe. So you're not just a believer because you do the work. Catch this, you all. You're not just a believer because you do the work, because a lot of people could do the same work. But here's the difference. We do the work because we are believers. We show up as believers first, and then we do the work that follows. And whenever you show up as who you are, the things that you do, whenever you show up, I'm telling you, when you show up as who you are and do what you do, the whole world is going to be a more beautiful place. Because that's what we ought to do every day. I'll tell you about me. I show up every day. I show up as a believer. I show up as a mentor. I show up as a life coach. I show up as a friend. I show up as a son. I show up as a brother. I show up as an uncle. I show up as a minister. I show up in the capacity of my life's calling. Then I do what correlates and corresponds to those roles. Show up as you, and then do the things that you do. Because I'm telling you all this is the heartbeat of my life these days. I want to live in such a way that somebody's life is made a little brighter, so that somebody's load is made just a little lighter. I want to live in such a way that when I'm gone, my works and my words carry on. That's how I want to live. And people are still motivated and inspired and challenged to become better. It's important to me. It is important to me to live in such a way that my works will speak on, even when my mouth no longer can. That's important. So I want to challenge us this evening. So Cutler, what is the takeaway out of this quote? I want to challenge us to live in such a way that our works will speak on, even when our mouths no longer can. All right? Because good works don't always lead, they often follow. And I think there's nothing no more honorable, no more wonderful than a life that says, here is a eulogy that says the work will continue, even though the person is no longer here in the physical form. I think that's absolutely beautiful and one of the most honorable things that will have ever been able to be said about me. It's important for me to live in such a way, you all, that my works speak when I'm gone and my mouth can't. All right, you all know we are reading these quotes and sharing quotes from this book right here, Billboards to Better, 366 Daily Sources of Motivation and Inspiration Along the Highway of Life. All right, okay. All right, it's so good to see all of you. It really, really is. And if you haven't done so, make sure that you do a subscribe. Make sure that you like, do a thumbs up on the conversation, and make sure that you share. You know, the song says, make sure that you come on, like, subscribe, and share, whatever this quote, the little song says at the beginning. I love the opening. You know, I just bounce when it's going on. I want to go to February the 15th, that quote for February 15th. It's good to see all of you here in the chat room this evening. Our quote for February 15th says this. And it's a heavy one, you all. So get ready for this one, all right? Get ready for this one. It says, stop engaging in self-destructive behavior and then pretending that you're not committing suicide. I'll read the anecdote that comes along with that, and I'll share with you the story behind this writing, because it's a very transparent moment. Stop engaging in self-destructive behavior and then pretending that you're not committing suicide. When we choke our dreams and hopes and ambitions, we commit suicide. When we don't eat properly or rest well, we commit suicide. When we live under the weight of stress and anxiety, instead of casting our cares, fears, and tears at the altar, we commit suicide. Wow. When we forfeit the opportunity to live with Christ, we live without him and we commit suicide. You all, I want to share the backstory behind this, another transparent moment. If you haven't done so, please make sure that you share this program, this channel, this conversation this evening. This quote reminds me so much of the fear and intimidation that I used to live in. Reminds me of so much of the times when I would downplay my gifts and my callings. There was a time when I was an academically gifted student, but there were times when I really didn't even celebrate my academic accomplishments. There were times when I wouldn't acknowledge my ability to retain facts and recall them with accuracy. There were days when I was so busy admiring the gifts and talents and skills of other people until I didn't realize that I had any of my own. And when I finally did start acknowledging and recognizing my gifts, I was so vested in others until I was afraid or intimidated or embarrassed about stepping into my own gift. We're going somewhere with this conversation this evening, you all. Because I had to come to a place where I realized that fear will cause you to forfeit your crown. Fear will cause you to forfeit your crown. And I don't know about anybody else, but I need all of the crowns that are laid up for me. But before I could get to the place where I had to come, before I could get to that place of recognizing my gifts and talents and skills and callings and all that, I had to come face to face with a few things, you all. Like a lack of self-confidence. I had to come face to face with low self-esteem. I know some of y'all are saying, what? You? Absolutely yes, me. I'm just being transparent. And I had to come face to face with a lack of self-worth. And I had to realize that I had something to give. I had to realize that I had something to offer the world, had something to contribute to humanity. And I had to realize that all of those things, you all, I hope this helps you all because I want you to see the same thing in yourself. I had to realize that all of those things that I had to offer were just as important as what anybody else had to offer. I'm telling you all, so I want you to see what is my moment of inspiration. It is an aha moment that I hope each of you have tonight. The realization that what you have to offer the world, what you have to give, what you have to contribute to humanity is no less important than anything that anybody else has. And sometimes what we will start doing when we recognize our gifts, we'll just start doing just enough to get by, and just enough to hope that God is pleased with us, not realizing that it is an insult to God not to accept the full arsenal of the gifts that he offers us. Wow, this is transparency, y'all, because what happened, my meekness, even after I recognized my gifts, my meekness allowed me to be manipulated. But y'all know how we say in church, the devil is a liar. Because I want to encourage everybody to step into the fullness of every single gift that God has given you. Don't be concerned, you all. Don't be concerned that your gift is not on display like other people's. Sometimes the only difference between your gift and theirs is that theirs may have a larger platform to be seen than yours. Don't worry that your gift might not have reached the level of maturity that you desire. Sometimes we're given gifts and they're developed over time. And we're ashamed to use them, ashamed to execute them, ashamed to administer them because we think, oh, I'm still fumbling with it. But fumble if you might, but use it. I'm telling you all, seek to know God's will for your life. And then seek to understand his blessings upon your life. A lot of times we have all these blessings on our lives and we don't even realize it. It's just like having gifts all around us. And we don't even realize it. We don't take the time to look at them and see what we actually have in our arsenal, in our possession. So I'm challenging us. I'm motivating us to stop and take a look. Don't let life carry you so fast that you can't see that you are gifted, talented, and endowed with skills and values and valuables. So seek to understand the blessings that are upon your life. And don't choke anything that you've been given. Don't stunt anything that's placed within you. And don't reject anything that God offers you. Don't choke it. Don't stunt it. and don't reject it. Because you see, when you choke and when you stunt and when you reject anything that's meant to give you abundant life, what are you doing? You're committing suicide. And what I've discovered, you all, is this is heavy. What I've discovered is this: we will choke and we will do all that stuff in private, and then we'll show up in public like everything is okay. We'll wrestle with the value of what we have within these earthen vessels. Do I use my gifts? Do I use my talents? And so we'll choke ourselves in private and we'll show up coughing and gasping in public. And when people say, what's wrong? We say, oh, no, nothing. But my prayer this evening is that all of us will learn to see, talk about inspiration, you all. This is why I'm here. My prayer for all of us is that we will learn to see and appreciate the beauty and the value of who we are and what we have. My prayer is that God will favor us with the grace to move beyond fear and intimidation that comes from other people. Because when we stop choking ourselves and start learning to show up in the beauty of who we are, the whole world will look better. Why? Because you just showed up. I hope that finds somebody and pulls them out of place of being manipulated by others and being intimidated by others and being fearful of their own gifts and being embarrassed to use their own gifts. If I have no other assignment this evening, it is to allow you and to help you to see the beauty and the value that you possess. It really is. All right. So I want to go on to February 16th. That was just a moment of transparency. And sometimes people will get our point when they see that we are living examples of what we say. We're living examples of what we say. And whether that was a moment of vulnerability or not, it was so important to me that you all get that. And you're never too old to recognize your gifts. I know that there are some people who say, I've spent my whole life wondering, what are my gifts? Do I have any gifts? And sometimes your gift is merely your ability to survive and show others how it's done. All right, I got to go, you all. I got to get to February 16th. But don't you dare let this week go by without realizing the beauty and the value of who you are and what you have. All right, let's go into February 16th. You all know I'm trying to make every second significant, every moment matter, and every minute meaningful. We're looking at these quotes from this book right here. Billboards to Better. You all, I'm telling you, my goal is that this year we're in a caravan on the highway and we have the most crowded car on the highway. Why? Because we're reading the billboards and we're becoming better. All right. If you don't have this book, make sure you go on over to Amazon.com and get it, or go over to my website, www.gbcutler.com, and pick it up. All right. Let's go on to our quote for February 16th. And it says this: just because we're not following, that doesn't mean God is not leading. Just because, and I'm going to try to put a funny twist on this because I opened this segment by asking, are you a good driver, poor driver, fair driver? What kind of driver are you? But I'm telling you this, just because we're not following, that doesn't mean God is not leading. In my earlier years, although I knew better, there were times when I wanted to blame or accuse other people of not doing their part. Why? Simply because I wasn't doing my part. So I would want to blame, wow, y'all, these are some real moments of transparency that I'm sharing this evening. Because I was not doing my part, I wanted to blame other people. I'm not doing my part, so let me just pass. Let me do some counter transference here and just do some reverse psychology or get the blame off me. But can't blame other people simply because I'm not doing my part. But I would. But you all know it's true. You can't accuse a teacher of not teaching just because you don't walk in the classroom. You can't accuse a preacher of not preaching just because you don't go to church. You can't accuse a performer of not performing just because you don't buy a ticket to the theater. And certainly we can't accuse God of not leading just because we're not following. This quote is an admonition. It is a reminder for us to accept responsibility and then do our part. You see, it's one thing to accept responsibility. Just because you accept responsibility and still you don't do your part, that those two they don't line up. Because I can accept responsibility but not do what I'm supposed to do. Because it can be there's something that we call so there's one thing, you can be guilty of malfeasance, bad behavior, or misfeasance, non-behavior. So I can accept responsibility but then still not do. But I challenge us tonight, you all, to accept responsibility for whatever our purpose, whatever our journey, our life journey looks like. Accept responsibility and then do it. Have you ever been, let me get to this driving piece. Have you ever been in a caravan on a highway, or just a lot of people, maybe you all, you and some family and friends, you all were traveling together, and perhaps you lost sight. Maybe you weren't the one leading, but you were somewhere along in the caravan, car number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and maybe you lost sight of the first vehicle because you had slowed down, or because another vehicle interrupted the caravan, jumped in front of you, or because you had stopped without notifying the rest of the team. And you end up lagging behind or losing sight of the driver who was leading the pack. Some similar things happen on the road, on the highway of life, you all. When we are being led, sometimes we get a little tired. Sometimes we get a little weak. We may suffer fatigue, and we end up lagging behind. And rather than asking for help or asking someone else to take the steering wheel and drive for us, rather than asking for strength, life gets ahead of us and we become frustrated. Life gets ahead of us and we become frustrated because we're lagging far behind and we never bother to ask for help. I'm talking to the drivers this evening and those who are going to come and do the replay. Those of us who are driving along in life. And then there are times when we're in a smooth flow, and the caravan seems to be just moving neatly. But then all of a sudden, like a driver who does not use a signal light, and those are the drivers that really get on my nerve, there's a driver who doesn't use a signal light who would just cut us off. And maybe life begins to rain, and we slow down just because it was raining. We slow down trying to be cautious. And when we slow down trying to be cautious, something else would get in front of us and get ahead of us and cause us to lag behind even farther. And we think we can make up the time. And we might be then too embarrassed to ask for help. We might be too ashamed to let the first car know that we no longer can see them. And we end up going along the highway of life frustrated. And there's sometimes while we are driving and we're frustrated because we had to slow down, because we got interrupted, or because we got caught by a signal light, we get frustrated with the leader. And then notice this. Has anybody ever had this to happen? You're following somebody and you've lost sight of them, only to discover that they pulled aside over on the shoulder of the road and they were waiting for us to catch up. Can you imagine? Sometimes we're in the caravan and the driver in the front car has pulled aside waiting for us to catch up, but in our frustration, we'll make a U-turn and go back to where we just come from. Don't let life do that to us. Not us, you all. And then maybe we just stopped altogether. Maybe we got hungry and we stopped. Maybe the air started leaking out of our tires and we stopped. Maybe we were running out of gas and we stopped. And sometimes we end up stopping. Why? Because we hadn't adequately prepared for the journey. But that's what we're doing here every Tuesday and Thursday. We're preparing for this journey. Because sometimes when we don't prepare for the journey, then we want to accuse the leading vehicle of being a poor leader when we really are the poor follower. I just want to remind us this evening, y'all, that when we choose to follow, let's prepare to go the distance. When we choose to follow, let's prepare to go the distance. So let's never blame God or anybody else for doing what they do simply because we don't do what we're supposed to do. Let's accept the responsibility and then let's do our part. You all, this has been 1800 Seconds here on the Let's Talk the Cutler broadcast on this program. I hope you're encouraged. I hope you're inspired. I hope you are motivated. I've certainly enjoyed seeing you here in the chat room. I've enjoyed seeing your comments. And I'm so thankful that you all decided to share whatever space you've allowed me to visit. I'm thankful for that. I'm humbled that you all would share this space. And I encourage you all, listen, go back, look at some of the other things that I post. I posted something earlier today about why I do what I do. I encourage you all to go and take a look at that. But you all, I'm here every Tuesday, every Thursday at 8 o'clock for only 1800 seconds. Don't want to waste your time. So until next time we come together, which will be Thursday of this week, let's continue doing what we do. Let's remember to keep building community. Let's maintain, even if we got to do it here, maintain connectivity. Keep your heads up, keep your hopes up. You all stay safe and stay sane. And until next we meet, from my heart to yours, please know that there is much love. Good night. Auntie, it's good to see you, by the way. Good night.